be taken recourse to. But if you were to look at primarily from the lessee-lesser kind of a relationship, Property Act, because leases are dealt with there, it does not provide for the purposes of suspension of rents. All that it provides is that if the situation which results into a material impact on the physical aspect of the building, in that kind of a situation, force majeure can be the force majeure can be invoked. But in a corona-like situation, people may not be working from their premises, but they can. And therefore, unless something special and specific has been provided in the contract is a lease deed between the parties, there is no such relief which is available to them. Now, has the life changed? The life has, in other aspects, the life has changed. Construction has become slow. Migrant worker issues became a reality. People were not able to complete their constructions on time, provide services on time. Similarly, the situation is that while um, the lockdowns may have gone, but the impact and the effect of corona has not gone. Maybe in some places this is the second phase, this is the third phase. People started off with a situation that there should not be a lockdown, then there was a lockdown, then it got partially opening, and everybody in the economic world feels that there will never be a situation in which we will be a complete and absolute lockdown. Now we have again situations in Europe which is moving towards a second lockdown. In India also, there are night curfews in some places, and in some places there are others, depending upon how this virus mutates, behaves, or is tamed by science. A vaccine is available, things will open up. People have realized, as a result of which, people have realized that there would be difficulties. The world is not going to be the same. Lot of e-commerce, and people have moved towards the this is a e-conference which is happening. Prior to this, I think 6 conferences were in the physical world. Today such conferences are possible insofar as the virtual world is concerned. Similarly, the courts have also become virtual. I have e-interns and there are e-contracts. There are more conferences which we have with seniors, which is on the which are done through Zooms and platforms like this. So therefore, there has been a world of change. The courts have become, instead of a place, they have become a service. Judges are operating from their house. I have had a situation in which an injunction was granted against us and then lifted on WhatsApp call in Hyderabad. So I could have never imagined that a judge sitting in Hyderabad at a district court would hear me on a WhatsApp call. Now it has become possible, and it has become a routine that we receive notices and we receive court summons on WhatsApp messages, on emails, on the corporate emails which have been provided. So it's a mixed bag. The situation is not normal, but we are all looking for a new normal, and we are hoping and um, seeing that there should be some reprieve or respite as soon as a vaccine is available. It looks like it will take next at least 1 quarter for a vaccine to be there, and another year before it reaches the last man. And if it does, and that's how life is going to become normal. Until such time, this is the manner in which we will have to accept the new normal and live. The last pandemic lasted for around about 2.5 years. I hope this does not.
Thank you, Manish, for the insightful thoughts, because I also resonate with whatever you have stated. And as an in-house counsel, even I have gone through these issues with respect to rents, because as an organization, we also lease out a lot of properties and we own a lot of properties. So, I think the same thing relies on the same, and it's and I think you have covered it very well by stating that it's a give and take relationship, because you need to actually understand that if you typically talk about force majeure, it's suspension of the performance from both the parties. So you have to kind of give and take, because you can't typically be stating your tenant that if you don't give me rent, leave the premises, because that's not a very healthy solution which we can provide to that person. So we have to even understand that there is no income, there is nothing which is happening. So we have to kind of have give and take. Manish, also I would like to kind of take 5 minutes more of yours. I want to understand that as a real estate lawyer, and not even typically a real estate lawyer, because you are into the infrastructure space, which includes real estate, telecom, and civil work. What do you feel that if there is a no force majeure clause? Because I remember having studying a lot of purchase orders, which we kind of subcontract our work, because you are a big real estate giant, and many of your work is basically subcontracting because you typically don't do everything by yourself. So in case if your POs or third party POs doesn't have a force majeure clause, what do you think from a contract perspective? What are your views on that? Yeah, I understand that there is a clause of frustration, and the doctrine of frustration is still there. But what do you really see that can it be really implied if there is no force majeure, no force majeure expressed clause in the PO or a contract? What are your views?
So the view is if there is no clause, good luck to you. That's the legal position. You cannot take any advantage except for a situation where it becomes that there is a frustration of contract. If anything, there is short of a frustration or an absolute embargo, then in that kind of a situation only you can have a recourse. Otherwise, people to realize that they have to live in a commercial world, in a real world, and some adjustments would take within itself. If there is no force majeure clause, there is no respite, no assistance which can be granted by the courts, because then you are governed by the contract. If there is nothing in
Correct.
the Contract Act does not provide for a situation where it becomes onerous, difficult, not commercially viable. In that kind of a situation, some kind of a equity or a reprieve can be given. Unfortunately, that is not what the question is. That is why you would have seen that insofar as the legislature has stepped in, whether it is RBI or whether it's the banks, for the purposes of moratorium, loan has been granted, interest waivers are granted. Insofar as the governments are concerned, insofar as RERA is concerned, some 6 months of reprieve has been granted. 1 year has been reprieve has been granted. Insofar as your IBC is concerned, so statutorily in Singapore there has been an enactment for the purposes of this pandemic. In London, that is UK, there has been an enactment. In India, there have been certain legislative measures which have been taken. Contractually, nobody could have assumed that insofar as the human memory, living memory is concerned, such a situation had arisen some 100 years ago. So it is nowhere in anybody's living memory. And the world was very different in 1918 as it is today. So therefore, a 100-year event, if your contracts were to provide for an envisage, also events which would have taken once in 100 years, then commercially things will become very difficult, and then you would require historians and very very bright lawyers in order to feed into those clauses, which will make commerce and business very difficult. So
Correct.
therefore,
Correct.
even if that kind of a clause is not there, then you must not look for it and then find scapegoats and say that if we would have done X, Y, Z, we would have been in a better position. This is once in a lifetime. No, this is once in 3 generations. Such kind of a situation arises. It is not possible. And if your masters or your employers were to think that you have been employed to formulate contracts which would envisage every situation which may have arisen in the last 100 years, you will end up writing very long contracts, and then there would be no business. So therefore,
Exactly.
yes, there is a situation. The courts also understand. The business also understands. There is reshaping of contracts, relationships. Everything has happened, and even Supreme Court had provided insofar as extension of limitation, whether it is filing of the 138 provisions or for the purposes of an appeal and asking of an extension was granted, or court hearings, all these accommodations were happening. So while law may be working in straitjacket formulas, but the real life does not. and there has to always be a give and take, which I'm sure has been taking place. And if there cannot be a win-win situation, win-lose situation, there has to be a win-win situation. And in some contracts, people will have to take it on the chin. Yes, it is a contract. There is a lease. There is the other person also needs to service the bank loans and other obligations, and therefore the cycle must go on. One must pay. I think, Babita, we have lost love. I think, but there is no. Yeah, we lost love.
Hello,
There is no.
can everyone hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Are you able to hear me now?
No, yes, that's what I was telling to Babita, that we have lost love, but there is no love lost. She can take it up from here.
I know, I know. I can't be lost.
Love, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. So, Babita, just go on mute. I'll just wrap up the session and then I'll come back to you.
Sure.
I think there's an echo. I think there's an echo at your end.
Yes, I can, but I think there's an echo, isn't there?
Okay. So, thank you, Manish. I think you've, kind of, teached us a collaborative approach because, it really comes from a very senior person like yours because I think you've really covered it well that, you have to have a collaborative approach. You can't be too much of, adamant about your contractual terms because otherwise you won't typically have a business. So I think, as a business lawyers, we also have to support our companies and our business. So thank you, Manish, for this wonderful and insightful session. Thank you so much and it's a pleasure to have you. Please, be backstage because we'll come back to you for any Q&A. So please be there with us. So with that, I move on to Ms. Babita Ambekar. Babita, I hope you're doing well. Hope you are able to hear me.
I can hear you. It's quiet, but I can hear you.
Great. So Babita, I would like to introduce. I would like to have a pleasure to introduce you as a panel speaker. So, guys in call, good afternoon, everyone. We have Miss Babita Ambekar, who is the partner and head of India desk at Singapore. She's basically a part of CMS, which is an international law firm. Babita is a partner based out in Singapore. She specializes in cross-border M&A, capital raising, new market entry, joint ventures, and restructuring across Asia Pacific. Babita has an established track record in advising on cross-border transactions and her sector of focus, which includes technologies, fintech, health tech, food and agri-tech, insurtech, renewable energy, health, life sciences, retail, food, and hospitality. Her clients include public listed entities, multinational conglomerates, and regional entities. Babita has about 20 years of experience in Asia Pacific, and she's worked on matters involving Singapore, Japan, India, Myanmar, Cambodia, Nepal, Malaysia, Korea, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, approximately the whole part of the Asia. She's been recognized in the Legal 500. She's also been recognized as one of the best lawyers in A-List 2020 by the Indian Business Law Journal. She's also been recognized by Legal 500 and the Asia Law Client Feedback Survey. She's basically a lawyer and a solicitor from England and Wales, and she has a lot of publications in her name, which includes great insight of her on energy sector and Singapore as a hub of India investment and whatnot. And she's been an avid speaker, and she speaks on various forums in the legal and the business areas. I would love to invite Ms. Babita Ambekar on the panel. So Babita, good afternoon. Pleasure to have you.
Hi, thank you so much for the kind introduction.
Thank you, Babita. So Babita, as you are kind of a corporate commercial lawyer, I wanted to understand that with respect to I have 2-3 things in my mind, so I'll just voice it out to you so that you can kind of cover all the things at one go. So I want to understand the force majeure drafting part from you, because as you are a law firm partner, many clients come to you for the drafting of the force majeure clause, which will protect your client's interest in case of issues like COVID or natural disaster. So that's my one question which I have for you. And I also would like to understand the contract relief provisions that have been adopted in a number of jurisdictions, because you've kind of have an experience in wide jurisdictions which encompasses Asia. Right. So that's my second question, and I would love to ask you that any inputs what the COVID has brought in your practices and your perspective with respect to your areas of practice, which is basically technology, fintech, and whatnot. So, Babita,
Yeah.
over to you. I have certain things which I have kind of, asked you, which have also kind of, been collaborated with a lot of attendees. So I just thought that I should bring it out to you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, love. Okay, so just some thoughts. I mean, Manish has covered off on force majeure quite extensively already. So I will just say a little bit on the drafting side. What am I experiencing from clients post, the awareness of COVID? So, previously the force majeure clause was always a neglected clause. I would say it was something that was a boilerplate, and people will just not paid much attention, cut and paste something from previous document, and really not consider the issues on an individual basis generally. But since COVID, I think this clause has garnered the most attention for obvious reasons. And my experience has really been that everyone is quite concerned, not just about the pandemic or epidemic as you might call it, but also to consider what other situations may we wish to call a force majeure, and what maybe would we like to not regard as a force majeure. So there's been a lot of discussion on this clause, and trying to kind of, I guess, upgrade this clause to consider many different eventualities. Now, the reality is the whole point of a force majeure event is it's an unforeseen event. So you can't really, in practicality, foresee what might happen in future. But certainly, I think that there are a lot of people who are paying much more attention and tightening up these provisions. There's a lot of discussion on the provision. There's a lot of consideration from contractual parties as to whether they can meet obligations. So it is. It's much more of I guess, a cautious approach to this clause nowadays. A little bit on contractual relief. What I've seen, there's certainly a number of jurisdictions, including Singapore and UK and various other countries, have, provided relatively swift legislation or guidance that companies, in certain instances, should be given relief from action for inability to perform or exercise rights under certain contracts. So I think that has been a much needed, development, and I think that it has helped companies in situations where COVID has really knocked things sideways. There are also other initiatives, such as in Singapore, there is an initiative called the Realign Framework, which has been developed to help businesses that have been very significantly impacted by COVID to renegotiate certain types of contracts. There are certain criteria to qualify for this exemption as an annual revenue cap to qualify as an eligible business for this, and also there must have been a significant fall in revenue. But certainly those are two examples of where I think contractual relief has been applied. I mean, it is also in many other practical situations, such as landlord-tenant, etc. And I'm sure in India it's the same. Now, moving on to how does it, you suggested that I speak a little bit on how it impacted my practice and the way that we do business. Okay, so I do work in technology as a sector. So that sector is, I guess, a little bit better weathered to address this change. But certainly, kind of accelerated towards a tech-based approach. So in Singapore, for example, while there has been digital electronic futures legislation, it's always been an optional thing until now. And I think very swiftly it became the norm. It is, exceptional to have wet ink. So I think that has been a significant change. It has also impacted not just, for example, corporate transactional lawyers. We might sign things with DocuSign quite often previously as well, but corporate secretarial providers or insurance services providers or those traditional businesses, they have had to quite swiftly change as well. So there was a migration phase, I think, where when we had the first round of lockdown, they initially refused to change their approach. They said, well, you need to sign this in wet ink. And, the reality is things just didn't happen. And people were questioning how it's possible to do this. How can we get this notarized? How can we actually operate in this very ancient, archaic sense, actually? And so I think they all changed, and now they're all operating in the new normal, which is a tech-enabled normal. So I think that kind of brings us nicely into the other part of the discussion. In the legal industry, I don't know if you want to cover that now or later.
Absolutely, Babita. So I also wanted to kind of understand that you are a partner in one of the law firms, and you may have a lot of clients who would reach out to you on the issues which you kind of discussed. Do you see a rise in litigations as well across the jurisdictions where you work in with respect to force majeure?
We have. Sorry, were you asking me? I broke out a little bit.
So, Babita, what I was asking you, that as you are a partner of international law firm called CMF, you are also having a lot of clients which typically are from fintech and real estate and technology and telecom in across jurisdictions. So what I wanted to understand that, do you see there is a rise in litigations with respect to force majeure in the jurisdictions which you work, like the whole Asia? Wanted to kind of just know your perspective on that. Do you see rise in litigations?
Sorry, unfortunately, the sound cut out.
Okay, let me just type it for you.
Comment on a few points, if that's okay, love. So I think that the litigation on force majeure provisions, it has risen. But I think that there will be likely more fallout in the coming months. Is the answer? There is a lot that is being in discussion at the moment. There are some matters that are going to disputes, but I think there will be more to come. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. So I understand that you see a lot of rise in the force majeure because the force majeure litigations. That's what I understand in the jurisdiction. In India, it's risen like it has never been before, because I have seen a lot of litigations which are happening with respect to force majeure, because there's a huge kind of conflicts which have arisen due to this. So I understand that even in the jurisdictions where you practice have also got a lot of litigation. So thank you, Babita, for the insightful session. I understand the way has completely changed how we practice, and thank you so much for the insightful session. And I understand that there are certain reliefs, but these reliefs are not completely straightforward. There are a lot of ifs and buts. So I think the same has been completely covered by you well. Thank you for being a part of the panel, Babita. Anything which you would like to share more, I will be happy to hear from you.
Well, I guess just a little bit on the use of tech in the industry, if that's okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so it was just a few points on how has COVID impacted our industry. I'm sure that there are many practitioners here as well who have a similar experience, but I think the biggest change has been remote working. So in a short space of time, bringing everyone onto remote working, and we as firms had laptops issued to lawyers, but maybe some firms didn't have that. Having people work in an efficient manner remotely, in a secure manner remotely, has been something that law firms have had to kind of sort of mobilize very quickly. How does our daily practice has it changed? I think that we have had to do a lot without physical printing of documents. I, for one, am one of those lawyers who always likes to look at a document in final form in print. So that's been a bit of a learning curve for me, although I still have managed to do that in certain instances. But yes, so I think these things are big changes for us. I think, of course, my disputes colleague would say that online hearings have been the most significant change for them. And there has been a sea change of, adoption of how they approach things and how they consult and how they collaborate when they're actually doing a hearing. So that's been interesting for them. I think the impact of this is going to be that just, we've probably moved ahead about 3 or 4 years in terms of the pace of development within law firms with regard to the adoption of technology. And I think this is just going to bring it forward much faster.
Absolutely. The change is something which we all are living with. So thank you so much. Well said, Babita. Thank you so much for the insightful session. So with that, I move on my introduction to Dr. B Ramaswamy. Good afternoon, Dr. B Ramaswamy. I would request you to be on the dais. You may remove. Yeah. Hi. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking out the time and for being with us. Before you proceed, Dr. Ramaswamy, I would love to introduce yourself. Dr. Ramaswamy is basically the chair for the South India chapter of International Bar Association. I have a privilege to introduce Dr. B Ramaswamy, who is a legal expert. He's an educator, author, and motivator. Dr. Ramaswamy is basically he's a registered advocate with Supreme Court and High Court, Delhi, Madras, Madurai bench. Dr. Ramaswamy is a former bench of magistrate as well. Dr. Ramaswamy is employed as an advocate with Delhi High Court for pro bono and mediation. Dr. Ramaswamy is a legal advisor to the Member of Parliament since 2014, and he continues to be a legal advisor today as well. So, Dr. Ramaswamy is a patron and committee member of International Bar Association London. Dr. Ramaswamy is also a member of Asia Pacific Regional Forum, European Regional Forum, International Bar Association of Human Rights Institute, Trust, etc. Dr. Ramaswamy was awarded the honorary doctorate in humanities from the International Institute of Church Management, Florida. He recently was awarded as the Doctorate of Literate, which is called as Honoris Dicta, the Doctors of Letters from California Public University, Northern Mariana Islands, for his higher education. Dr. Ramaswamy was also awarded as the Best Teacher of the Year in 2019 by International Bar Association. And needless to say, Dr. Ramaswamy was also conferred as Kautilya Award by the Indian Economic Association for his outstanding contribution on development of economic wings writing and his lectures on the national building. So with that, I would request Dr. Ramaswamy to share his insights on the force majeure scenario, because he's been a member of the parliament and continues to be. Dr. Ramaswamy, what are your views with respect to force majeure on a broad level? You have been on the bureaucratic side of it. What do you see the business is going, where the business is going? What do you see the corporates and the industry is going? Where are we on the economic front? And what are the challenges which you have seen? Plus, I would request you to also kind of touch base upon that what are the remedies what you as a bureaucratic feel that we should be taking, or it is under process. So over to you, Dr. Ramaswamy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Tawani. Thank you so much, Manish ji and Advocate Bhavana ji, Advocate Babita ji, and thanks for the organizers, respected President, the Vice President, the General Secretary, Executive Members, Secretary General, and all those dignitaries, and very important bloodline of the organization. I'm very thankful to the Mr. Dhanwani ji who has introduced about me, kind of you. The topic is extremely extraordinary. The reason is that the current situation demands such topics to be discussed. Unfortunately, the whole day I was on street serving the food for the people who are cyclone affected people, and I was forced to come to the studio to speak about this issue. However, it is my topic, which is part of my daily practice, so therefore it's easy for me to deliberate some of those important points as raised by Tawani ji, and the topic also demands that the growing use of technology in the legal industry. Trust me, thank you so much for this topic. I am very grateful to Honorable Prime Minister at this point of time. Suppose the legal cabinet minister is also the technology minister, and he was also responsible to expand the role of digitalization in India. No doubt, the role of digitalization in India was brought by then Honorable Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi ji, but it has been widely forcibly implemented by the current Prime Minister. It is indeed very important for us as an academic head and as well as the bureaucratic head, as well as a part of legal cell. I have seen three industries for last 25 years. In all the three industries, legal digitalization too much plays a very important role. Particularly after this pandemic, digitalization becomes inevitable, particularly in India. In my exposure to 150 countries all over the world, the digitalization is not new to them. It is an old system for them. But for India, it is a new to them. For example, judge is sitting at home and say that I want to hear your case. Our bar will definitely oppose. They will say, they will laugh at them or they will protest at them. They say the judge is useless and so on. A lot of criticism they will create. Today, today we don't know where the judge is sitting, and we don't want where he is sitting. We want listening. We want hearings. That is what happened today. We don't explore so far where Honorable Chief Justice is sitting, where the Honorable bench is sitting. We are not so far bothered about it. But we are fortunate that we have been heard by the Honorable judges. This is the system in which we are living today because of the pandemic. Now, why we Indians, we have been forced to accept and adopt this system. I have seen my own bar members. I am a Delhi Bar Association member, and my own bar members are criticizing, saying that we don't need the system. We need a physical hearing system, and so on. Fortunately, I have been practicing both in High Court of Madras, High Court of Chennai, High Court of Madurai, and High Court of Delhi. Three bars I am very closely operating. Right now, I am sitting in Madurai bench, that is in Madurai bench of High Court in Tamil Nadu. Yesterday, I was arguing the case, and it was a very clear-cut information that I was enjoying arguing to the double bench in Madurai bench without any kind of hindrance. And I don't need to travel. I don't need to travel. I don't need to spend money, and I'm quickly able to deliver the problem's solution to my clients.
Correct.
Trust me, it's my personal experience. And this is never going to happen. Why? Because if there is no pandemic, when I say, even the client won't respect me. When I say I'm sitting at home, I'll solve the problem. Say, Bhaiya, you go to court, Bhaiya. Go to the court. They get tensed. The client will get tensed. The client may be paying 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs. Doesn't matter. Highly educated client. They will say, still you go to court. Do not go to the court, and so on. Today, I'm sitting at my home. I'm talking to the judges through my online and able to solve the problems. Now, 4 days before I was arguing the case in Delhi High Court, but sitting in Madurai. No flight, no cost, no traveling, no corona for me, nothing. I don't want to disturb the judges, honorable judges. They don't disturb me. They gave me the link. I argued the case. I won the case. So which means the client wants only the result. And this industry, believe me, the legal industry can grow bounds and bounds at the highest level by using such a technology. Say maybe 20 days before I was in Singapore, sitting there, I was able to argue the case in Supreme Court.
Correct.
Now, if you would have been physically out to come, I had to do all my work in Singapore, I had to close my work in Singapore, I have to fly, I have to pay any money. Business class, maybe 1,85,000, I have to rush to Delhi, physically appear, and then I may lose the case, I may win the case. It is not my hand. It is the judge's hand. Now, these are the practical example I want to inform you. But my fellow men, my legal fellow men, I want to inform. I have been writing articles on this, that it is our legal industry can grow miles and miles away if it is continued to use of technology. We don't need a face value. The honorable judges will go based on merit of the case. Wherever you sit, you argue the case, you win the case or lose the case, you put forth your idea to the judges. Now, only one problem you may face is the digital availability, digital infrastructure in India. Even now, when I'm sitting here, I'm sometimes I do get much of information of what Babita has talked about, because of technological infrastructure. Once we enrich our technological infrastructure, believe me, we can be superior to anyone in the legal industry. We can argue the case anywhere. Sitting in Netherlands, I can argue the case in Supreme Court. Hari Salve never came to Supreme Court on the day of arguing for Arnab Goswami. He argued the case through online, sitting in Netherlands and so on. This is an example. So therefore, my humble request through this seminar, that presently Indian legal profession is the world's second largest profession, with more than 6 lakh lawyers in more than 500 legal practices nationwide facing. It is a time to change our legal ecosystem through using technology. My personal conviction and personal experience shows that technology and transformation go hand in hand. Legal transformation going to be beyond the boundary, beyond the territory, use of technology. As I told you already, India is the legal profession, world is second largest. And the world is second largest must know use of technology, use of digital technology. And that is why I am very thankful to Honorable Judge and Supreme Court of India, who is responsible to introduce the digital education to the lawyers. We have a special committee in Delhi Bar Association, Madras Bar Association, Madurai Bar Association, to teach the lawyers how to use the technology. Free of cost, we are teaching. Yet, there is a criticism. Now, if you really want to export this legal industry beyond any expectations and make it to the world level, we must use of technology in legal industry. Why I am saying this? Because approximately Indian legal market is estimated around 1.25 billion US dollars. That much money that we invest, the clients investing on us. So wherever we are, by using the technology, we can explore the industry beyond the limit. Corporate business, or business corporates, or the criminal system, or IPC system, or in jail. To them, we can have a video conference and listen to their problems, and then we can argue the case. So our legal system is supposed to be very innovative system, and innovation is already there among the judges. Innovation should also be among the advocates, because bar and bench must go together. Only bar alone cannot function, only bench alone cannot function. If you want to make the effect of the legal industry, use of technology is extremely important. And we must accept the legal system. There are few advocates who may lack infrastructure. Maybe bar can address them, bar can provide them some kind of common infrastructure facilities they can create. I want to give an example. In Madurai bench, the Madurai Bar Association had made a common platform where some of those advocates who are able to invest money on technology infrastructure, they can come to common place and argue the case through online. This is an example. So like this, we can do in a broad term and make this legal system go in bounds and bounds of the day by use of technology. At this point of time, the last point I want to make is that our legal profession is one of the best professions of the world. To make this legal profession, because what the client wants, the client wants the result. The client wants that we should tell them, we should be able to argue and able to get the result. So therefore, use of technology, we can get a lot of advantages. Very quick advantages, I want to say, more advantages. Quickly we can get the judges, and quickly we get the remedies. Number 3, we can instantly, 24/7, we can and we can definitely send the message. Fourth point, that use of technology, wherever we are, we don't need to spend more money. We can invest less money in industries like
हमारे खिलाफ किसने
what
किया
I got
है
with my personal experience and feeling.
साइबर
Thank
सिटी
you so much
डेवलपर्स
for this
लिमिटेड
opportunity for me. So before I end, I would say through our organization or association organization, we must extend this information that legal industry can play one of the most viable industry by using technology and digitalization. Thank you so much and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramaswamy. It was a very power-packed session which you actually took because I really could resonate. You know, you have so much of positivity on that part, and you
खाता नंबर खाता
educate
नंबर
people that let's get on to a technology. And Babita also comes as a technical lawyer. She's already
अरे ये छोड़िए ना राजीव को भेजो पूछो ये किसका मैटर है कब हुआ है क्या है
Manish,
कौन कर
may
रहा
I request to go on mute? I think
है ऊपर जाके देख रहा है कौन कर रहा है
no worries. I think Manish just thank you, Dr.
तो वो राजीव को भेजना पहले
You spoke about the
इसको करा के ठीक है कब आया ये
transformation because it is really a need of the hour. Because if we stuck in the technology, then we will go quite back. What you exactly pointed out is something which I really resonate that we as lawyers, we have lot of responsibility on our shoulder. Our profession is really a noble profession and we help the society and the communities we live in, which is absolutely correct and well said. The only thing is that as a lawyer, we need to be 10 steps ahead. And if the 10 steps ahead is the technology, we have to take it in our hand. Plus, what you typically stated that you people, the bar council, the associations are ready to educate lawyers for the usage of technology. If somebody is not that much educated or proficient in the technology, you are willing to go an extra mile to help them. I think this is something very noble because today is the need of the hour. But I really would like to also point it out that we are going to a technological solutions, but as far as the infrastructure is concerned, we still have a challenge and a way to cover because you will always see a mobile network is working very good at one point and another point it is absolutely lost. So many a times I think that is something a challenge, but I think we will be there. I am sure people are working together, and what you talked about the prime minister and everything, I really kind of appreciate the work they are doing because see we can crib about everything but we will have a lot of things about to praise also. So there are people who will always crib, there are people who will appreciate whatever they can. So I really kind of thank you for this power pack session because it's coming from you, wherein you have been on both the sides, you've been on the government side as well, and you have been on the practicing side as well. So I think an insight from you was cherry on the top. So thank you so much for this wonderful session. May I request any of the attendees to ask a question? Yes, I do have a question from one of the attendees. They talk about that we have seen the force majeure quite a long back, and this is the first time we are seeing the force majeure. There would, what do you feel that whether the business and the economy will come back to the track as it was earlier from a legal perspective? What do we how do we see about it? So that's the question which somebody has asked from the attendees, that how do we see the economy and the legal profession coming back on track post COVID? What do we see that? How do we see that? Any reflection? Yeah, please.
Thank you so much. May I answer?
Yeah.
I've been part of economics as an economist, as well as I've been a part of the legal person.
Okay.
I voluntarily want to answer this question. Trust me, Indian economic system before pandemic, we are supposed to be part of 7 billion economic system, and we want to replace British economic system. We want to replace American economic system, and we want to have a 5 trillion economic system. Unfortunately, the pandemic came and it interrupted in a very forcible manner, and we couldn't get back a lot of projects on. That is the reason that 5 trillion economy had been slowed down. There is no doubt. Let us accept the fact. At the same time, I am very thankful to the questioner. Through him or her, I want to enforce this information that right now the extra policy, extra budget given to Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Finance Minister would help us a lot in almost 25 departments. 25 departments, including health department, including education department, including industry department, and more particularly SME, MSME, that plays a very important role.
Okay.
Because if you look at very carefully, Honorable Prime Minister's inputs on role of SME, role of MSME, role of MME, those three small scale industry, medium scale industries, their growth and inputs have been viable, extremely viable, and that will bring our economy fast in track. Because instead of heavily concentrating on heavy industry right now, what we need to concentrate is the SME, MME, MSME. This is what the government of India is in right track. Coming back to legal industry, believe me, endemic did not stop our clients to pay good money. In fact, I earned more money during pandemic than normal time. Believe me, I have contested more than 285 cases. I got more than 2.5 crore. To be frank,
very nice.
Which is a legal money, which is a taxpayer money. Now, what I'm trying to say in a public place, say that here, legal profession, no way going to disturb our growth and economic viability and so on. If you have a good lawyer, if you have a good arguing lawyer, if you have a good hardworking lawyer, you have a technology, you have infrastructure, you are able to satisfy the clients by putting your put forth arguments to your honorable judges, and the courts are well open. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which court, lower court to high court, everything is open. For example, I'm telling you honestly, today our Madras High Court is closed for last 2 days, but Madurai bench of High Court is open because there is no cyclone in near Madurai, which means even though all the courts closed, but immediately the Madurai High Court had opened. I'm able to argue 2 cases. This is an example. And what I'm trying to say is that our economic system is no doubt slowed down. There's no doubt.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
But it will definitely come back. As an economist, I would say the way they invest money in important sectors and will create a great point. For example, sorry to expand one point. Till today, our education system did not disturb. Our online school is going on, online college is going on, online education is going on, online approval is going on, online school approval is going on. Everything going very well. Only one problem we are facing, to be very frank, is that as Tawani also said, I have also said that our infrastructure is not that acute. Because, for example, right now the cyclone is going on. I may lose my network maybe after 45 minutes. I may not speak to you at all because cyclone is very heavy in Tamil Nadu now. I may lose the network within 40 minutes or 30 minutes. That is, we are not equipped on that. That is what we need to think about, because it is a new use of technology for us. Our economy will be tracked. Trust me, maximum another 10 years, we are able to bring not 5 trillion, 8 trillion economic system. Only thing we need to cooperate with the government. We should not too much criticize the government and make the government much worse. Already government is working on worse situation in the health sector, in every sector. Therefore, we need to put effort, including agriculture and so on. If you all put together, come together and able to push forward, motivate our honorable minister, trust me, we can work very hard. We can win together. That is more important. Winning together is more important than individually winning certain sectors. Thank you so much.
True. Thank you, Dr. Ramaswamy. So there are plans to revive back. So thank you so much for that session. Manish, I would like your inputs. Where do you see the economy and the legal profession, back on track? Do you see that the legal profession is back on track? Because we've seen a lot of layoffs and so many stuff. So what do you really feel on that? Your views, Manish. Manish, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay, see, if you look at the total number of GDP numbers don't lie. We were down by around about 23% insofar as our GDP in the last quarter was concerned. We may have now reached at around about 90% of our GDP. we have had, but GDP tells a very different kind of a story. The numbers only tell part of the truth, and the other part is that the today the GST recoveries and the recoveries insofar as the income tax is concerned, they may have reached at around about 90% of its present value. But we all see value in the growth. That growth, insofar as the life to become normal, it will still take a lot of time and lot of effort. Things will not come to normal until and unless you have a vaccine.
Correct.
And that vaccine works. So it looks like by the next quarter we will have a vaccine, and maybe it will take another 3-4 quarters for things to get back to normal. Today, good lawyers with good connectivity and all that is very fine. But if you look at the number of cases which are being heard would be less than 50%. The number of hearings which are actually taking place will be less than 25%. Ad interim injunctions, some orders and other things are going on. But insofar as the other aspects are concerned, M&A, mergers, acquisitions, Reliance may be one-off deal, and certain large deals which we may have heard insofar as the e-commerce space is concerned. Rest of the business, insofar as the tourism is concerned, hotel industries is concerned, insofar as your cinema industries is concerned, your cinema halls are concerned, your entertainment is concerned, leisure industry is concerned, all that will take a lot of time. So therefore, we are on the path. We hope that things will become better. But insofar as the legal part is concerned, if Mr. Salve can argue from Netherlands or London, and Doxa can argue from Chennai. So therefore, the digital divide is also going to become very, very vast. A lot of people, there would be, it could very well be that insofar as things change forever, and we will have people from Chennai arguing in Delhi, Delhi arguing in Chennai, Coimbatore, or maybe back up beyond, somewhere in the interiors of Nagaland, people from Delhi would be arguing. So there would be a K kind of a recovery. K meaning very good for some, very bad for the others. So it may not be a V or a U or a W shaped recovery. It may well result into consolidation. And so today, Babita rules half the world sitting from Singapore. Same kind of options options may be open to people in India as well.
Correct.
So the only worry of the future which is going to be is that there is going to be too much for too few.
Yeah, correct.
So this is one thing. Digitalization is going to happen. Once that digitalization happens, once it becomes possible for lawyers to argue, once all those alibis are taken away, that insofar as cross-examination is not possible, this hearing, that hearing is not possible, the connections are weak, and it will become possible for you to argue online. It will be possible to video record your submissions and send it to the judge. All that is going to expedite and make justice delivery system very cheap. But at the same time, what is going to happen is that it is going to create opportunities for very few. All those who are absolutely ready, have their shoelaces tied, are the only ones who are going to march forward, it looks like. So we are going to go towards a consolidation. It is not going to be a evenly distributed world as it used to be. Digital hearings have become much more patient. A lot of M&A activities are going to happen. A lot of e-commerce companies are going to do better than what they used to. OTT platforms are going to do. So many new things are going to come up. Maybe hotel industry is not going to do well. People are not going to immediately go and go to Singapore or go to London or go for a holiday. But certainly consolidations are going to happen. Everybody will have to see what is going to suit that very individual the best. Times are going to be tough, but only the tough are going to succeed and make more money than the rest.
Manish, well said. And I hope the people on the panel are the toughest and we continue to make good money.
Yeah. All those participating and those listening are the only ones who are going to benefit. Rest are left out.
Absolutely. I thank you so much, both of you. I think Babita had a meeting at 4:30, as she told me that she couldn't.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being on the panel. I wish you healthy and safe rest of the day. It was really a pleasure having you all on the panel, and it was a very insightful session. It's always better to learn from the veterans. So thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.